I've heard, okay. We will officially reopen the meeting. And again, welcome the guests. Oh, and Tina has arrived, so welcome Tina and Mr. Crystal and Nancy Levine. The reminder about an open meeting. This is an open meeting, and we need to follow the open meeting law. And to acknowledge the loss of Mary Kay. So, I know a lot of you attended. I've heard many of you attended, and it surely is a loss, you know. And we've been feeling it, unfortunately, prior to her death. But
the contribution she made to the town and to society were fantastic.
that's right, to this town. I don't know. I know I've known her for years, ever since I've lived here, but not closely, but everybody knew the case. So, and we certainly pay our respects to the family. So.
I'm very thankful that you did the event, the tea and the acknowledgement of her contributions and the emeritus status before she died. So
Right.
that was very good.
Well, we felt really that was an important thing to do, to honor her, because she certainly did make major contributions to the senior population over the years in Littleton. So.
And I have to let you know, when I was going through the line, Gretchen Kay remarked on how happy the family was over.
He told the whole family that what we had done. So.
Well, that's nice. That was very nice. I
Yes.
think it certainly was appreciated, and I think her daughter's attendance at the event was, certainly we welcomed it, and it was very nice. We appreciated it, so. It's a loss to the town, that's for sure. And the children are scattered, so, they're not,
And a
no
lot
longer
of
in
them.
Littleton. I mean, the closest is in Acton, but most of them are away. And I don't think there are grandchildren in town anymore either.
No, but they were all here.
Yeah,
All the boys were in suits. It's
They
wonderful.
were all there
to
at the
see.
wake.
yeah. Well, Mary deserved that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, are there other announcements? You might notice that we have inserted this change on the agenda. We have inserted an announcement title there because we kind of Pam and I stole the idea, really, in a way, right, from the Board of Selectmen, because they tend to have an announcement, or they call it, I think, something a little different, but it's an opportunity for board members to offer anything that is not on the agenda but you feel is important that needs to be heard, in the form of an announcement about something. So not business per se. So I welcome that from you. If you have any kind of information you'd like to share with the board, this is the time to do it under the announcements header, okay? And that's where we put Mary Kay's name, because that kind of was an announcement, although everybody knew about it, but, yes, Barbara.
Getting back to Mary Kay, I did ask her daughter, the one that was here at the dedication, if Mary got to see the film, and she said yes, she did. And she was very happy and very sad at the same time. Sad to see all her friends, and she couldn't be with them.
Yeah.
So she did see it,
Well, that was nice. I think that was nice. That we hoped that would happen.
yeah,
So,
she did.
great.
Yeah, when I went to the wake, Laura, she really appreciated the board doing that for her.
Yeah.
She really, really appreciated it.
Well, I just felt badly that I couldn't be there, but I had a family commitment myself, so out of town. But thank you. I'm sure you represented the board well, all of you, so. All right, moving on. Can we approve the minutes from the December 8th meeting? You have a copy in your packet. And probably have read them. I'm sure you've read the minutes by now. So. Are there any corrections? Otherwise, we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as recorded rather.
I second.
Jean seconding, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. I think that was a unanimous vote. Okay. All right, we're moving on to old business. Update on the kitchen, the ever-going project.
Oh, I wish I had more to tell you. We are still waiting for the plans to come back from the architect. I had a meeting with the architect, the building commissioner, representatives from the PMBC, to talk about a couple of design issues that came up. One was about the vent from the stove, and the other was the grease trap. I know the vent from the stove was solved, and the issue was, if we did it the way it was originally planned, it would have cost too much money. So they came up with a low-cost solution. The grease trap was a discussion between Bill Cole and PMBC and the architect on the size that it needed to be. And I believe they resolved that as well, but we have not received the plans yet. So there's certainly no schedule advancement at this point.
Any questions, further questions for Pam on that? I guess we're just gonna have to keep that under the old business header for quite a while. Don't know what else we can do, other than maybe say a few prayers that it gets moved along, so.
And that the appliances hold up.
Yeah, things are getting a little iffy, huh? All right, are we okay with moving on? Update on the needs assessment.
The needs assessment called off the meeting on the 10th because of Mary's funeral, and have rescheduled it for the
31st.
31st. So we will be holding that on the 31st. We will let everybody know. We did a good job of letting people know that it wasn't going to be held. I don't know whether anybody showed up or what. But in any case, we will be holding that open forum on the 31st, and then the board will be meeting, the assessment, needs assessment committee will be meeting to go over what we learned there.
Now, is that the
It
same?
was Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right, George. I was just going to ask the same question, and is it the same time slot on Saturday?
Yes,
We are meeting,
10:30.
10:30, okay.
the subcommittee is meeting on the 28th before the 31st to set up a sort of agenda for how that focus meeting is
Going to
gonna
be
go.
handled?
Yeah.
Okay,
The sort of the touch points of what need to be discussed and information disseminated.
great.
And the interviews with the key informants begin either at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. I know those appointments have been made.
Oh, great.
How many do you have?
4. I would like to just make sure that everyone's clear that the meeting on the 31st is not the needs assessment. It is a public meeting to inform people about the needs assessment. The actual needs assessment will be a written survey that will be sent to everyone in town. So I want to make sure that when you talk with anyone about that, that they're clear that you don't have to come to this meeting with your list of needs. You're coming to hear about how the needs assessment will be conducted, why we're conducting it, and then you'll have your opportunity probably in April to fill out the lengthy needs assessment form and say everything that you need to say at that point.
An effort to get information out and to offer opportunities for questions, I think, isn't that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are we
So-
paying for a speaker for this meeting? I understood.
It's all part of the program.
We asked the town to give us $35,000 to execute a contract with the Gerontology Institute at UMass, and this is part of the services that are provided under the contract.
I remember the figure 30,000 for some reason, I don't know. That-
35,000.
35?
But they will be, it's my understanding, Dr. Mulch, is it Mulchel?
Because the
Mulchler?
time has been changed, Dr. Muchler is actually going to be able to be there.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to be able to be here on the
Will
10th.
they send out the survey?
Yes.
Okay.
These are questions that can be asked that day. I think that's the purpose of the meeting on the open forum on the 31st, too, is to, if they have, people have questions about the whole process, the money or whatever. You know, it's an opportunity for people to come, to ask questions and to learn more about it, because it will be coming forth, and it's maybe a valuable tool to us.
All the meetings of the subcommittee are open meetings, and board members are welcome to
Right.
attend and get any questions asked there.
Okay. Other questions about the needs assessment and the process? You're doing a great job. I think it's very exciting. I find it very exciting, so. All right, let's move on to the membership subcommittee and member handbook update. And Barbara and I are the membership subcommittee. We would love to have another member if somebody would be so inclined. Correct, Barbara? But we have revised, just updated the table of contents for your handbooks. So I'm going to pass out, I have, how many did you make? How many copies?
13.
13? I'll just keep one here then. I'm going to pass around the update to put into your book. We added, you know, a couple of meetings ago, we gave you some new material to put in your books in the back. And you'll see that I, like the MCOA conference, October 2014 handout, you'll see them on here. So that's quick. Basically, that's all we're doing as far as the board member handbook goes. It's just an update for you, for your, for the table of contents.
And just dispose of the old one.
Please do, yes. I should put the, well, I do have the date on it, January 2015, to help you keep track of things. So,
Do you have
Okay.
one for the book in the office?
I was going to take it when it comes around.
yeah, well, I have two, I have my book at home, plus the one extra one at home. And so,
And I'll
that's,
take that one for the book in the office.
there's two here. I'll
Oh,
take
even
one
better.
in here, it's perfect, I'll take two.
Did George get one?
Yes.
Chris is
yeah.
in here.
Chris needs one. Oh, that's right.
No, Barbara put one there for Chris.
Oh, good.
I
Thank
did.
you. Thank you, Barbara. Okay. Any questions on that? Or can we move on? Move on. Sounds good to me. All right, but Chris isn't here, and this was a particularly a topic of interest to him, the protective services. What time is it? Well,
We'll come back to it.
that's what I'm
Maybe come
thinking.
back.
Can we put it on hold? Are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a topic that is pretty dear to Chris's heart, and I think he'd like to be here. So we'll put that on hold, and if I forget to go back to it, please remind me. Okay. So, and then we move on to the last item that we have down here. We'll skip to that, to the Community Preservation Commission. And if you recall at our last meeting, if you scanned the minutes, they were asking, I have them here, the commission was asking if we had projects that their committee could work on, and people were asked to think about it and see if you could come up with some ideas. It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. So we wanted to revisit this topic. We did say in our meeting last month that we would revisit this, so that's why it's here on the agenda. And Pam just passed out a sheet on the Community Preservation Commission project guidelines. This might help a little.
So you'll note on this guideline sheet that there is a website on littletonma.org that has a complete document, is the Littleton Community Preservation Plan. It's quite lengthy, so I didn't copy all of the document for you. You can look at that if you want. But what I did pull out is the decision guidelines and the project selection criteria. Because you'll recall, this all started when Patrick Joyce, who's a member of the commission, came to me, and he was a little confused. He wanted me to bring something to the commission for the Littleton housing on Shattuck Street, but I explained that that would really come under the Littleton Housing Authority. So then he went on and said that we ought to come to the CPC and ask them for some money for a project. And I printed this out to give you some ideas to help come up with any suggestions you might have for a project that we could approach them with.
And we've got them to go to new
Senior center.
Doesn't fit under the
It comes
guidelines.
under recreation, it comes under housing, it comes under...
Yeah, nice try.
I was trying to stretch that myself.
Yeah, you know, they've done some preservation things, like they provided the money to dismantle the Long Store, and I believe they're talking about a plan to put it back together somewhere and find a site for it. They provided funding for the 300 King Street Park as a recreational activity.
They put the new steeple on the Baptist church, repaired the steeple on the Baptist church
Right.
because it's a historic site, and they're
Historic
doing
building.
something at the Congregational Church with the stained glass windows because they're all about the history of the town.
Right.
Congregational, didn't they do the windows?
Yes.
That's what he just said.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't you listen when I talk?
I'm listening while you're talking, dear.
So, I guess the big $64,000 question then is, did anybody come up with an idea or a thought even that we could expand upon? There might be some, a project that,
Well, I honestly feel that Council on Aging does need more space. It's up to-
Can't hear you down here.
Sorry, I have a soft voice. I honestly feel that the Council on Aging does need more space. And I think it should be more accessible. And I'm wondering if that's something they could look into and make some recommendations and help us out more.
well, if you look at the project selection, is there some category here that you think it might go under that would be realistic? These are the guidelines that we'd have to follow, and that's what Bob had just said. He was trying to find a way to kind of rationalize that, I think.
I didn't try and rationalize it. We have all kinds of exercise classes and things like that for seniors that go on, and it talks about things like that, and so, you know...
Recreation, that's true.
Are we
recreation and
individually the
restoration of
historic
open
resources?
space. Around it, we could put a track.
Are you thinking that we individually are historic resources that should be preserved? What, a historic home is
That's
more
another
than 50 years
possibility. I hadn't
old.
thought of that one.
Historic home is more than 50 years old, so I got plenty of historic resources.
That's true.
If you added all of us up, can you imagine?
Well, take this and take a look at it. Feel free to go to the website and check on it more, and I will continue to be thinking of whether there's any ways in which we can get CPC to support projects for us.
And by all means, if you have a little bright light come on, please send an email so that we can explore it a little and then bring something back to the committee, to the board. So I think because it's a valuable resource, we just have to figure out if there's some way that we can benefit and
Yeah,
come up with some ideas.
it's tough to find something that we're working on
Yeah.
that fits in there.
Well, I was just thinking that, if it had some space, you probably could get some recreation, if we could have a recreation room like for the seniors that would have equipment in there that the seniors could come there and utilize it for recreation, like when it's bad and the climate outside out there, that they could come there and, do exercise or walk around the room and so forth if we had a room.
A fitness type
Right.
focus center
Yeah,
or
so-
something?
Yeah. I mean, that would fall under recreation, I would think. I don't know, I'm just thinking.
No, I
All
think
on the
that's a good thought.
Preservation of seniors.
Yes. Help preserve the seniors.
The only difficulty with that is that the wording does say acquisition, preservation, rehabilitation of land for recreational use. It unfortunately does use the word land as opposed to buildings, because that's a good idea.
And they are also not program people. They don't get into the programming of things, so it makes,
Yeah.
somebody else has got to have the programming and say, we need it, like the Conservation Commission says, we want open space, then they can look to them to provide money for it.
Well, I would think that if that was something that we thought that would be beneficial for the seniors, I think that we could, put a request into the selectmen for them to consider maybe modifying, asking a modification to the guidelines that the CPA has.
Yeah, this is
In order to
state
fulfill-
stuff.
In order to fulfill the need of the town.
The definition in the glossary for this document of recreational use is active or passive recreational use, including but not limited to the use of land for community gardens, trails, non-commercial youth and adult sports, and the use of land as a park, playground, or athletic field. Recreational use shall not include horse or dog racing, or the use of land for a stadium, gymnasium, or similar structure. So gymnasiums are specifically out.
Well, only thing I'm just saying, that's what they written down. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that if we thought something, if there's a need, if the town feel that, this is something that we could help the seniors with, I'm saying that I think that they could put in a request that we modify the policy for the needs, and it's still under recreation.
It's
And
it's
take
not a
that to
town,
the- it's a
it's not a
state
town
thing.
policy. This is
No, it isn't
this
a
is
local.
state statute. So you'd have to modify the state
State
statute.
statute.
Well, that's not, they modified it already one time to give us what we got now.
Yeah, yeah, they did modify it to go from just passive land use to active land use. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just making
Yeah.
sure that you understand where the energy needs to be directed.
So that, in a way, is encouragement for further thought. So it's a good point, George.
General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 5B.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts about that? I would encourage everyone to continue to think about it, because you might have, something might come up that might be worth, even if you're not sure, it would be, it's worth exploring. So continue to think about it, and we'll go from there. And if people are, hearing the word here, somebody else in the community might have an idea, and they could get to the board over it and give us, their input. That would be helpful. Okay, Chris is no longer here. Are you is not here yet. Not here yet. Are you comfortable moving into new business?
Yes.
And continuing to hold that item under old business? Okay. So, everyone ready to move on to new business now? All right. We have under new business, a vote is needed to support the newsletter repeal for transportation donations. And Pam can explain that to you, I think, much better than I can.
So it's no surprise to most of the board members that we had a shortfall last year in monies to pay for drivers for transportation. And that was part of what fueled the request to the town to move my salary completely out from under MART, so there would be more money available for the drivers. In the 6 months in which we've been able to make that happen, which was great, transportation costs have gone up even more. And we are routinely approaching 500 rides a month or over 500 rides a month every single month. Vans are out there twice a day, 2 vans every day, 5 days a week, long days. We have some regular riders that ride early in the mornings to Emerson. And then all we need is a few riders at the end of the day before we want to go with 8 and 9 hour days every day. My projections are that we will again have a deficit, not as large as it was last year, but even $500 is a real burden for us because we don't have a lot of extra money anywhere within our coffers to use for that. And of course, all of you, you especially George, are aware of how touchy the town is about money that goes for salaries versus money that's set aside and budgeted for operational expenses, and you can't mix the two. So it's difficult to move money around easily within accounts. the solution that I would like to suggest, and I talked to Keith about this, is that we make an appeal to the town for donations that are specifically targeted for transportation. We have the needs assessment coming up, and we've been talking about, as part of the needs assessment, sending the newsletter to every home in the town as a way to advertise what we do and give people an idea about what we would do. This would be a great chance for us to include an appeal that, again, would go to everyone. So it would hit not only seniors, but it would hit their other family members perhaps, or people who have seniors in other towns that are being taken care of by COAs and who may wish to contribute to us either in recognition of that or in anticipation of their own seniorhood. But I think it could be a great way for us to get some money in. In order to do that, however, as with so many things, it's a lengthy process. And the first piece is that this board needs to vote that they want to do that appeal. Then it would have to go before the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen would have to approve that we make that appeal. And then at that point, we'd be golden, and we can do it in any way that we want it. I know in the past, we've talked about things, and people used to send things out with light and water and things like that. But if we're already planning to send the newsletter to everyone in town, it seems like a brilliant opportunity to ask people to do directed donations for transportation.
I'm sorry, but I'm confused. You're saying two different things. You got an appeal for the newspaper for donations for transportation. What has that got to do with sending the newsletter to everybody?
Put it in the newsletter.
It's a good time
Appeal.
to put it out, to put the appeal out, because the newsletter
You
is
ask for
going to
the mo-
everybody.
Can you ask for money?
It'd be
The
in.
town-
it'd be in the
All right, so you're not talking about newspaper, you're talking about the
Newsletter.
newsletter.
The broadcaster.
Broadcaster.
The senior
And
broadcaster.
are we sending the broadcaster to everybody now?
Not
We're going to
now.
send it
Seniors.
one time as part of advertising the
Okay,
needs
now I
assessment.
understand. Okay, thank you.
It's a one-shot deal for this year, and then who knows if it seems to have been helpful or whatever. You know, we look at that and say,
We're not
okay,
talking about a general newspaper ad.
no,
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 this
the
is in
broadcaster.
our broadcaster. Other COA directors tell me that they send their newsletter at least one time a year to every household. Now, the advantage postage-wise is that that goes out for, I think it's 8 cents a piece. So it costs more, but nothing close to what you would think it would cost more to send it to every household in Littleton, as opposed to the 700 that we do now.
yes, George.
So we going to the selectmen to ask the selectmen, can we ask? Is that
That's
what
it,
the
yeah.
purpose of that? Two is, where's the shortfall for the budget?
I'm sorry, I couldn't make
The
out what you said.
shortfall for the
Oh, the
budget.
shortfall?
What's the anticipated shortfall?
I'm anticipating maybe $1,500, maybe $2,000.
But
Some
what-
of it depends on what happens between now and May.
What area of the budget are we talking about the shortfalls in?
Driver salaries.
Is the reason I ask because I have a problem with the amount of money that the town is contributing to the budget. They are the one that put increases. Initially, the budget was at a set fee, a set amount of salary. They increased to give step increases to the people that was working under the MARC program.
Yeah.
Therefore, they controlled the money. Therefore, they put the increase. We didn't ask for the increase to be in there. They ought to board the expense of the increase in that budget because the town did that. That's what they wanted to do. And that budget is a separate budget which belongs to the town. It doesn't belong to the COA. It belongs to the town. The MARC program belongs to the town. So the town should pick up the cost of any shortfall in the budget. We're taking and managing the budget the way they ask us to manage it and to spend the money. So they're the one that kick this in. and they're the one that should fulfill it.
Now,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Patty?
Are the drivers paid, being new, are they paid out of the COA funding or are they paid out of the town funding?
They are paid under Elder and Human Services as our employees with a budget that is sent to us from MART and partially matched by the town.
Yeah, we need to understand that what happens is that we have a $68,000 budget for MART, but a part of that is matched by the town, and a part of it is given to us over and above that from MART. It is a town program. I don't disagree with George at all. However, we've been through this before. The town will only deal with so much, and we still have the problem. So what we're trying to do is find a way around to...
So have we tried George's suggestion?
Oh, yes, we've asked on
Going
many
to the
occasions.
town and saying, we have a shortfall. What are you
That's-
doing?
That's why they changed things last year, correct? And they moved Pam's, the portion of the Pam's salary
Out of the MART budget
out of the bond budget, right.
to give
So
us
they-
more money
So
in the
they
MART
have
budget.
in essence refused.
And it's still not
town.
enough.
No, it's not enough. That's
Doesn't
not enough, and
Mark
we're
get some money
anticipating
from the
this
state
year
For this?
to have another, it's because the
Doesn't
costs
Mark
have gone
get
up
some
again
money
this
from the
year.
state
Right.
for the transportation?
So they're not, they would
they
not
definitely
honor
go
a
to town.
request to pick up the deficit.
Well, we haven't requested them to pick up the deficit. They did honor the request last year
Right.
and picked up the deficit and managed it.
They did
They
last year.
did. That's why, and that's how they did it. By-
Okay, so would they not, are we anticipating they wouldn't pick up the deficit this year? And that's why we're proposing sending a newsletter to everybody in town requesting a donation.
It's an opportunity, I think, just to get the word out to people in town a little bit more. Now I could be wrong here, but to explain to people that, transportation costs are whatever.
Yes,
And
I understand that.
additional, if people want to make contributions or something, then they're more than welcomed. I don't think anyone's going to be pressured to do anything, but it was just an information. Am I correct in that, and assuming that that's?
I mean, it appears like it's a twofold entity with this newsletter, information and contributions.
Well, it just seemed as though you could put something in the newsletter. It's going to be mailed out to the entire town, and it's an
Yes.
opportunity to educate people.
That's one,
That's one.
and two is
And
contribution.
two, if you wish to make a contribution, then you can, type of thing. I think that's all that it was.
So in
anticipated.
doing that, are we gonna bypass asking the
No,
town?
we have to still, I'm sorry.
Are we going to bypass asking the town to pick up the deficit, even with asking for contributions?
Can I go ahead?
And what if we get both?
Just a minute, let Pam speak.
Okay, so the budget for next year has been approved, and there is no additional funding for transportation in that budget over and above the 16,000, which was moved away from being MART and being paid by the town. I think the town's viewpoint is, we just gave you an extra 16,000. Of course, it's not really 16,000 because 10,000 comes right off the top for Crosstown because of the new dispatch arrangement.
So we're not going to have enough, and I understand that. So the contributions we get would be our cushion.
That's right, and the town, I believe, would see themselves as having made a contribution already.
So they don't want us coming back saying we need more money.
Well, I'll tell you what they are suggesting to me, and we'll see how you guys like this. I wasn't real happy. They've made lots of suggestions that maybe we need to cut back on what we're doing.
Exactly what I was just gonna say. Their other answer is cut back on your services.
Right. It's very, very hard to do. So, we run 5 days a week. I have a post-stroke guy who goes to Emerson at 7:30 every morning. So I know I have to have a van on the road to get him there. I have someone else who has a neuropathy and has no feeling in their lower legs. They can't drive. They still have a job. we pick her up late in the day and either bring her home or take her to PT. Very hard to just chop those people off and say, I'm sorry, we can't take you. We're not going to start running until 9 o'clock in the morning and we're coming off the road at 3 o'clock. I could take a day out. We won't run on Fridays anymore. We have people who come routinely for lunch. This is their hot meal of the day, is in the cafeteria. And if they don't come on Fridays, that means they don't have a hot lunch from Thursday until Monday. To say nothing of medical appointments and all the other things that people do. I'm trying to come up with a solution and asking you to help me in crafting a solution so that we do not have to cut back on service.
Oh, I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
George has been waiting.
Madam Chair, I have 2 points that I want to make here. One is that the town knew when they went in and reevaluated positions and put step increases in that they did for the town for the MARC program that we had there. Now, they knew, and I remember that when the town administrator, Mr. Berkman, said before, when we was at the selectmen hearing, that they didn't take that in consideration at that time when we was talking about the budget for the salary for the director there. And my point here is that they put this in, they're the one that controls that budget with the state and with MARC. They put that amount increase in there knowing full well that something would have to give, as we did with the COA budget for umpteen years, cutting this, cutting that, to put money there to take care of a situation. So my thing here is, I think that we ought to take it to the selectmen and say, this is what was approved and put in place as far as increasing personnel salaries. And the same situation was that we used to take money out the budget to take care of the director and Tina's salary and cut the budget that way. So they put this in place. In my opinion, they're responsible for what they put in place. This is not a burden for the COA. This is a burden for the town because they are town employees. They may be function under the director of the elder department, but they are town employees. Therefore, the town should take care of their employees. They're the one that said we want to give them increases. Because the budget was originally set, when they established this, it was a set amount for drivers and dispatchers. And I think, number two, the best thing that we could do is just like we did with Tina's salary, is go to the selectmen and let the selectmen understand that we shouldn't be going out here nickel and diming and asking for donations. They have a reserve in this town in the budget. We're not talking about a whole lot of money. So they could go in the reserve. I remember when the COA had problem with the tires on the vehicles, like $1,500. I got the money from the Friends. They in turn gave us the money to pay for it, and I went back in and asked that the town reimburse and give the money back to the to the Friends, which they did. They have a reserve. They need to fix the budget. They need to fix the problem with the budget. And that is their baby. And we should go to the selectmen and make the selectmen fully aware of what's... I don't like the fact they keep pushing things down on us to go out and do this. And as far as putting in the newsletter, the town have a policy that they don't like to go out and ask for donations unless they get approved by the town to do it. So that's what we're asking, and I approve of that we go and ask the town, can we do that on a one-time shot? But this is is most likely going to happen every year or every other year. Whenever they give the increases in the salary, there's always going to be a shortfall. So we need to tell the town, you need to fix this. Quit putting it on our backs. Thank you.
Yes, Bob?
I would suggest that we know that what's going to happen is that the whole Mart budget is going to be removed from the COA eventually anyway, and going into the Transportation Department, which they're in the process of developing. So we're really looking for a short-term solution until it gets there. And I've been through this with, George and I both know that we've been through this for years with the town, and maybe what we're looking at is a short-term solution, and I would suggest we vote on this and put it before the selectmen. They're either going to approve it or not approve it on a short-term basis. If they do, we'll get money to solve this year's problem and maybe next year's problem, but by that time, I think it's going to be gone out of our department anyway.
I was going to ask that question about the transportation program, because it is anticipated that the whole transportation program is going to be moved, you know, that they're taking steps to get that taken care of.
And I wanted it noted that I don't disagree with a word that George said.
I agree.
He's absolutely right.
Yep. So, yes,
Mr.
I'm sorry, Mr. Crystal.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Yeah, I like what George said, and it opens the question in my mind, because I have no concept of how much money's involved here. I'm totally new to this discussion, but would it help to say, this is how much transportation needs? You know, we're short, come up with a number, it's 10,000, 50,000, whatever. And then have that as part of the COA letter, if you're gonna send one out, maybe report to the town, we're short 100,000, and this is a problem. And maybe the public will realize that there's something that needs to be done, you know, politically.
Yes, Nancy?
I also have a question, and I agree with George 100% also, but the price of gas has gone down an awful lot. And so I don't understand any of this. It just confuses me. And just one question, when we're talking about all the rides we give on a monthly basis, Pam, these are all just for Littleton, correct?
No, we go to Boston, we go to
No, but
Lady.
the people that we take are only from Littleton?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the issue, I'm sorry.
Are they only seniors that use this?
No, we take the disabled as well.
Okay.
The vast majority is seniors.
You remember, this is the Department of Elder and
Human
Human
Services.
Services.
No, I know that, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and the town recognizes, I mean.
And the Montechusett Area Regional Transit takes qualified disabled people as well as elders.
And, yes, Chris?
But, you know, that's a great point that Nancy raised. There are instances where something was allocated, but less is required. Gasoline, for sure, costs less than anticipated, and though different budgets. But how do we look into a couple of those buckets and maybe just find the 1,500? I also agree with what George has said, notwithstanding that, but here we are, if indeed it's on us to figure it out. Aren't there some buckets somewhere, like gasoline, that we can cobble it together?
If I can respond to that. Right now, the town does not require us to pay for our gasoline for those vans. So although we've had an increase in the salary requirements to run the vans, we have not had to pay anything more for the increased gasoline. And I'm talking about the first part of this year when gasoline was not $2 a gallon. I hesitate to raise that as an argument for fear that they'll decide that we should start paying for our own gasoline. And I just want to remind everyone that from the town's viewpoint, in the new budget going forward, they just gave us $16,000 more for transportation. I want to make you sure that you understand that from their viewpoint, they think they have given us, when they have gone to other departments and said no for things, they do feel like they have given us something.
Is that an increase, Pam?
Pardon?
Is that an increase of $16,000?
It's an increase
Yeah.
of $16,000.
Yeah, the 16,000 there was that amount of money in the Mart budget for a supervisor position to supervise the whole program. And it was a part of Pam's salary was taken to do that. We have moved that out of the Mart budget so that the Mart budget now has 16,000 more dollars in it that is unaccounted for, so it can be used against the drivers and the dispatchers. The fact is, though, that the dispatcher cost is doubling what it was last year, so 10,000 of that is automatically taken up to pay for the new central dispatch system.
Well, it might be $16,000 more, but the senior population is increasing drastically because the baby boomers, that's a big population right now, and that's increasing drastically every day.
But the fact is that they did make the arrangements to give us 16,000 and worked it around so that we could do that. The same as they did a couple of years ago when they took the gasoline out of the MARC budget and accepted the cost to the town, and the town pays for the gas and does not charge MARC for it. So those two items in the last couple of years have made a significant difference. The problem is that the needs are, of what people need are still growing and growing and growing.
They're going.
And, so we're trying to find an answer to make it work.
Yes.
I don't understand. Is there any way for the drivers to be volunteers rather than paid employees? No, because of liability?
I can use senior tax workers
That's
to
right.
drive, because they are town employees. But for anyone to drive, they have to go through
Have to go through a whole
the
training
MART
program.
process as well.
Okay.
Can't use volunteers. MART doesn't allow that. They have to be town employees.
I was going to suggest the same thing for temporary, because I think Lincoln is one of the towns that uses temporary volunteers to transport people. But you've answered the question.
Well, we come under MART, and we've had this discussion before, that if we want MART's $68,000, we have to play by MART's rules.
Right,
And I
okay.
actually just had a
That
back
was-
and forth with Adam this morning at MART, in which he was verifying, because he knows that we're running into issues also with just getting people to drive, because I don't know if you guys know that George Ogilvy had surgery last week.
No.
So he's off the road. He's doing fine, but,
Right.
that just came up really unexpectedly. But he was reminding me that they have to be employees to drive. It might help a little bit for especially new board members to look at my director's report and to note that in July of fiscal year 2013, we had 163 rides a month. And in December,
I'm enjoying myself.
in July, we had 163 rides, and in December, we had 506. Part of what you're saying is true, that we do have to absorb the cost of the step increases, and the town has been giving us that money for me and for Tina, not for the drivers. But a large part of the additional cost is we're doing so much more. When I first took over as interim director, there were days that we only ran one van. I look back at those days and wonder.
Yes, George?
And Madam Chair, I have no problem with the town probably coming back and saying that, okay, you may need to cut something or whatever the case may be. But when it comes to the salary of the employees, that should be made whole. And anything else that we're doing as far as the amount of time that we're providing the service for, maybe, they say, well, you're gonna have to reduce it some. That would be a legit requirement for them to say, because we don't have the money to do it. But at the same token, I think that where this is going to switch over, I would think that the town, if it's only a small amount, you're saying maybe $1,500, and whatever we don't use, give it back to them. I think that, they just ought to try to pacify the issue and get it taken care of and not create the problem on us, because we got other things to do and worry about other than worrying about money that we don't have.
Bob?
And rather than keep going over the thing, we know
Right.
what the selectmen ought to do, we know what we'd like them to do. I would move that we support the broadcaster appeal for transportation donations to be sent to the selectmen for approval.
Second.
I didn't hear what he said.
He moved
I
that
vote
we,
that we support the broadcaster appeal for transportation donations and send it to the selectmen. So yes, I'm saying we need to put an appeal on the broadcaster and come up with a temporary solution.
second.
And it was seconded.
A question, what's going to go in the broadcaster besides the specific appeal to set some kind of a foundation for the request?
And that, I have no idea.
I need an overview of the increased numbers in the
The data would have to be in there, I think, and I'm sure Pam would include it. And I think that, my thought is that obviously if the information and the statistics are going, you have to be there to support it, and would be of interest to the selectmen, I'm sure.
And the citizens.
Citizens as well,
Yeah.
to see how rapidly things have changed.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Are we then not going to go back to the town as well as George proposed?
We will be.
We will be.
Will be through the broadcaster.
Okay. The other question I have in the back of my head is, if we're sending this broadcaster to every resident in town, which I think is an excellent idea, Pam, what do we lose by not sending it to businesses in town? Because they may be the ones that would send us the contributions.
Good point, yeah. George, did you have your hand up, or is?
Yeah, I did, but go ahead, Bob.
All right.
I just wanted, I don't disagree, except that I don't think that the businesses will read the broadcaster, very honestly. I think that it would have appeal, hopefully, to individuals reading, looking at senior interests. I'm not sure businesses would take the time to even, and if it's a part of a whole newsletter, part of a whole broadcaster, I'm not sure that they would.
Well,
I don't have any objection to doing it, but
Okay, yes.
This is all supposing that the selectmen say that we can include a request for a donation. I mean, we're sort of putting the cart before the horse. We need to give Pam the vote to go to the selectmen and see if we can ask for donations.
that's what the vote is.
Yes.
Only to provide it to
Right.
the selectmen for their approval.
And I can speak to the
Then we can
business.
determine exactly what we want to say, and we will have to accept the cost of sending the broadcast to everyone in town.
All right, George, you've been
Go-
trying.
Go,
and
go,
then-
go ahead with the director. She said
Okay,
she would-
Pam.
I did want to say one thing about the business situation. A couple of people here have alluded to the idea that there is this initiative to create I don't know if it's going to be a transportation department, but an entity within the town that will handle transportation, not just for seniors, but they're talking about the commute. You may have heard them talking about the
Right.
last mile. So it would start earlier in the morning at the train station and take people to, like IBM, for example, or Red Hat over in Westford, or the businesses that, the other businesses in town that might have people who are coming out from Cambridge or Boston to work for them, banks, for example.
And/or shuttle services around town.
And this is where we start to get into the whole business thing. Part of this initiative is they are talking to the businesses, and they're asking them to, instead of individually run shuttles, to come together as part of Crosstown Connect and do a much more efficient and integrated approach to transportation. So that instead of, for example, Red Hat and IBM both run a shuttle that comes from Alewife. And I believe they have one that comes from our train station now that the schedule has changed. Why run separate shuttles? Let's do a more consolidated thing. What about being able to run, for example, a bus that would go up and down Great Road, The Point, Donlands, various businesses that are along Great Road. So there is some effort already underway to get the businesses involved, and of course, they have much deeper pockets.
And they're paying for their shuttles now.
They're already paying, yeah, they already have budgets for the shuttles. These things do go slowly. I recognize that, and I think we all know how long it takes. Well, look how long it took to get Tina's extra 10 hours. It took us over a year to do that. But, yeah, that's definitely on the
How
radar.
many years, George? More than a year. It was 10 years.
A year after they said yes.
Yeah. All right, Georgie, you've been very patient.
Yeah, Madam Chair, with regards to the director, do you know what you're going to put in the newsletter? Say that the selectmen authorize us to do that. Do you have any content as to what you're going to put in there to appeal to the people to probably give a donation?
I have not written it yet, but I
Okay.
know it's going to start by saying things like, in July of 2013, we took 163 rides for 41 people. And in December of this last year, we did 506 rides for 71 people. And it's going to talk about the increase in service. And then it's going to talk about the need. Obviously, if you're going to increase service, money has to come from somewhere.
And right now that we're at this shortfall, and hopefully that the town is going to, I would say that if the projection is that the town is going to put in a
A certain amount,
transportation
but that we
system that's
still are,
going to,
yeah.
we're just asking this for a short period,
Yeah,
a
the town
temporary
is looking
fix.
for long-term solutions now,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we're looking for short-term.
Yeah, I think if we just ask for a short time, we can put, this is just a short time to, no more than 2 years
And I
that
do
we look
get,
at this.
I do get donations. I do get funds that come in. But because they're not directed to transportation, I cannot use them for driver salaries.
Right.
That's why this has to be a directed
I
appeal.
understand that, Thank you.
All right.
I think there are people who would like to support
I know,
that.
and I think we've had further discussion,
Yeah.
so. Are we ready?
Thank you.
We're ready.
To
Vote.
take a vote, okay. All those in favor of supporting Pam's effort to go to the selectmen regarding a transportation request in the broadcaster when it is sent out once this next year to the entire community. So, you're voting, if you're in favor of her doing that and going to the selectmen to hear their input and get their input, et
Permission.
cetera, and permission, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Those opposed? Abstentions? I think we're good to go.
Thank you all very much.
So, yes, thank you. That was a good discussion.
This is the-
And Chris is here now, so I think with your, okay, we're going to go back to the item we held under old
Right.
business. Wait, and so Chris could participate, because we know it's something that's close to your heart, Chris.
Protective.
So-
Services.
Protective services, under old business. Update. And what part of that was, I think at the last meeting, or the meeting before, it wasn't the last meeting, it was in January, I believe. Pam and Tina were going to talk about our spend some time brainstorming on where we were at. They had run a program on elder abuse.
February.
About a year ago, right. And so I guess we're at that point. Is it time for another program? Or I don't know whether Pam and Tina have come up with any ideas, but it's a follow-up.
Well, the program last February was aimed at providers. So it was aimed at COAs, outreach people, various providers, nurses within the community. I have asked Minuteman Senior Services, of which we're in their catchment area, to provide us with a speaker aimed at the public at large. I'm waiting, there's some discussion going on about who would be the right person, and I'm waiting to hear back from them on who it would be, and then from them, I expect to get some kind of a feel for what would probably be a single presentation, maybe a couple of presentations, but aimed specifically at lay people. There is a community coordinator, Amy, who has been working with us. She's the one that we worked with to set up the Managing Diabetes class, and she's quite enthusiastically helping me to find the right person who could do that kind of a presentation.
And do you feel that a presentation to the public, it's a delivering information to them, or do you anticipate not a workshop, but do you anticipate a Q&A or an opportunity to interact? I mean, given the subject matter, and this was part of the question based on past programs, given that it's such a sensitive topic, some people just are not comfortable talking about it. But how do we get people to participate and to maybe open up and talk about it? And what's the so there's the topic, but there's the format of that structure, and I'm sure we have experience with it.
Minuteman probably does too, I think.
Well, they're going to definitely have some input because they go to other communities, and I'm sure they're going to have some
Okay.
ideas. I would like to ask them to do a presentation and a Q&A. But my expectation is not that people in that Q&A are going to say, I'm abused.
Right.
The best that I could hope for is that we give people some written information to carry away with the right phone numbers and who they should reach out to, and then I'm pointing at Tina. And that we keep our fingers crossed that people can follow through. But I don't think that there's any way that we can have a meeting where publicly people will declare that they're abused.
So an element is recognizing it, because it's not just those that are unfortunately victim to it, but those that might be in the position to recognize it, and others recognizing it, spotting it, how to report it, resources available to you,
Right.
should you be part of, you
That's
know.
part of the whole, yes,
And-
the whole thing.
Yeah, and then we somehow create, if not a recorded session, it's documented so that, you know, we have it.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned this before, that on the back of my business card, I have Minuteman's 800 number, and whenever people talk to me about people in the community that they think may be in danger, I hand them that card and I ask them to call. I'm a mandated reporter, but I can only report what I see. So then I ask them to report what they have seen, so that we can start to build a file.
And in addition to that, I think just getting the information out about Minuteman, so people understand, most people do not understand the scope of the services provided by Minuteman either. So
It's
that's
also a
another,
once-removed situation, which is a problem. Once you start moving beyond the people they know, Pam and Tina, you've really got to work on them to understand that these are a part of our expanded source of strength, and to get beyond that. And many of them just aren't going to do that there.
You know, that cuts both ways though, Bob, because sometimes people are hesitant to speak to Tina or to me because they're worried about confidentiality. And they're much more comfortable talking to someone
true.
who is outside of town. But it's very hard to say, it's hard to predict that with a given circumstance.
George,
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe as an informational thing, that maybe Chris could go and coordinate with Barbara and get on TV there and sort of kind of talk about what program that, you know, we're looking at. And as they said earlier, the director said she wanted them to give a question and answer program there, that, you know, your privacy would be protected, that, you know, is a situation here that if you want to discuss something in particular, you know, you could go into closed section one-on-one with someone to discuss that. But I think that one way of getting it out for our citizens is that if this is something that we're looking at, and if we don't have any problems, then that's great. But I think that if we set up the mechanism of putting the information out and letting people know that there is something here in Littleton,
So-
or we getting ready to put something in Littleton that's going to do this, and we're working with certain organizations, and we have a date that when they're going to be out here, that if you would like to come, you know, you have the opportunity to do that.
I think Barbara does do a monthly presentation on her show about what's happening and everything, and if we asked her to really highlight it or have a guest, she left, but Nancy can share that with her.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'd welcome anyone
No,
from the board. Chris, and Chris has been on with her once already, I think. Yes, you have.
Oh, sure, I'm happy
So-
to do it unless someone else wants to. I think that's a great idea. So when we have the structure and the topics and the date and time,
We have to have all of it set up.
and then we use that as part of our, you know, get the word out.
Publicity campaigning.
Oh, but we just talked about, just before this, you know, that would be a good thing to air on the show. You know,
Transportation,
go-
once it,
transportation.
well, if we're moving forward with
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yes, yeah. No, and Barbara's very good about getting information out, so good suggestion, George, thank you. Okay. So we're moving ahead, we're going to be having some kind of a program, and it's being worked on. And we'll follow up on that to see where we are next month, okay? All set with that? Thank you. All right, back to new business, making town meeting more accessible for seniors. And this was information that came up, you know, from, I think it was a board member that came forth and was commenting on the fact that it's difficult for seniors sometimes to get to the town meetings, to sit in this, I know I don't sit on bleachers anymore. Those days are gone, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I don't like climbing bleachers, there's no handrails there to hang on to, so if you don't have a seat on the floor, you know, et cetera. Parking is a huge issue, unless you have a handicapped, you know, thing. And there's very limited handicap spots at the town meeting sites, right?
No,
So,
no, they increase, even at voting, they increase the handicap parking.
They do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, when the buses come, they increase, they put up signs that
Okay.
this is for handicap.
I wasn't aware of that, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's the topic here, it was suggested that other ways or things that we might be able to suggest, you know, that would be helpful, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic, because, you know, it was brought up to me from a couple individuals who actually got in their cars, and it's not easy to do at night and everything else, and drove to town meeting, but couldn't find a spot. And you hear something once, you hear it a second, a third time, and that's just an immediate. Now, it's probably something that's easy to talk about, the challenge, and it's probably really hard to find a solution to that.
Well, I have, what about a van that could pick up people and take them to the meeting? And
But that's the interesting thing, we have that service available.
They don't take advantage of it, right?
We have that service available, and I brought that up to a couple individuals, right? And it was an interesting reaction, and it makes perfect sense. You know, it's kind of like attending an evening meeting is somewhat of a game time decision, to use a sports analogy, because it really depends on the day. How is the individual feeling that day? Are they up for it? Just the late night, the nighttime, being out at night, being out late. How are they feeling that particular day? And so in order to take part in the service we provide, they kind of need to know in advance. And maybe that's why no one takes us up on that, or very little people. Or maybe it's awareness of it.
maybe that's
I
why
think
the-
some of the issue with that is the agenda. Some of the items on the agenda that seniors might be interested in is at the end of the meeting, and they have to sit through this whole thing,
4 hours.
and they're waiting, and they're waiting, and they're waiting.
Hours.
One thing they could do at a meeting where, climbing the bleachers is not the best thing, they can put chairs on the floor, they can rope off a section and say for seniors only. That's very simply done, and they can go in and sit on not on the floor, but sit in the designated section on the chairs, save them for seniors. Or handicapped people who come in with a walker, who have to sit down there. They do have a small section where they put up the closed caption. Somebody with a cochlear implant
Right.
like myself, I have to go down there because I have to read closed caption,
And they do.
because I don't hear.
They do have a section for people who are non-voters too.
Yeah.
Okay, George, and then Mr. Crystal would like to say
I'll let
something.
Mr. Chris go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Crystal?
Well, thank you, I'll be brief. Thank you, George. When I saw this on the agenda, I was just excited, and I'm listening as you speak, and this is a good topic. Now, I'm a guy who has gone to town meetings since 1964. There were things I wanted to talk about in November, and I was all ready to go. And I got down here at 10 minutes of 7, pulled in the parking lot, no parking places. I drove all the way out to the little school down the end. There were no legal places down there. Every place was taken. There were people parking on the sidewalk down there. I wasn't about to do that. Plus, we all have aches and pains, and I have a bunion, and it was bad in November. I could not walk a half a mile round trip to get over here with it. So I left. It turned out there were a dozen cars ahead of me. They did the same thing I did. They drove in, they looked around, and I followed them out. They left. There's no way to park. Now, we are really, senior citizens are a big group in our voting population. And they are mature and experienced, and a lot of them been here for a long time. they need to vote. We need to make it possible for them to vote. So sort of I was here saying, well, could I convince the COA this is a good topic for you guys to worry about? And I don't think I need to sell you, because it sounds like you appreciate the facts. Now, I also work on the voter participation committee for 3 years. And we've been trying there to find ways to make voter participation easier for everybody, you know?
Maybe we can come up with some
It'd
ideas.
be
George?
good. Maybe you can, because the voting, it needs to be for everybody, but the seniors need parking places, the first thing.
Why not have it?
Thank
Yes,
you.
Barbara?
How about news getting out that they could fill up this parking lot and a school bus will pick them up here?
Could they change the location to the high school or somewhere?
George wanted to speak,
Go
but
ahead,
maybe,
let
you know,
her
there's all,
speak. No, go ahead, let her speak.
I mean, well, I'm
That's it.
thinking, we're coming up with a lot of ideas. And I'm thinking that we're not gonna, this meeting can't possibly be the
solve it.
committee to develop everything and put it together. So we need to have somebody, you know, if we're, something that we wanna tackle or pay attention to and come up with suggestions, I think we need to have a couple of people that are willing to work on that and come up with ideas and then come back to the board and then add ideas, et cetera. Because, you know, time constraints, it's 2:45.
Henry,
We
is
still
the
have,
participation committee still active?
Hasn't had a meeting since Alex McCurdy resigned, which was about 6 months ago. So we did some, but to answer your question, it's officially, it's alive, but it hasn't had a meeting.
but it's a very good, and I don't think we should let it drop.
Because that's what we're talking about, is voter participation.
That's exactly right.
And I think location
So-
is an excellent point to bring up.
I don't think we should reinvent the wheel.
No.
I think
No,
your
I
idea,
agree.
Marge, of a couple of people to
Maybe
perhaps
work with
get
the-
back in touch with those people and find out
That's a good idea.
what has been tried, or what has been suggested, or what's been shot
And work
down.
with that group.
Well, the only thing,
Yes, George?
the only thing I wanted to say was that, when she brought up about, putting a rope probably, you know, putting a section over for the seniors, I also think what they need to do is that they do that, they need to have someone with a hand mic to go over and work that area. If there are seniors that raise their hand and wish to speak, the moderator has to look at two locations, that location and the location where the seniors at with a mic, and give those people opportunity to speak, and I think that would be good.
That's another good point. Yeah,
But
people
it seems
can't-
the
a mobile-
biggest problem is you can't talk and speak if you can't get into the meeting.
Right,
So our biggest issue is how to get people to be able to get
and
in.
It really is, though, you're right, but it really is all of these things. So it's physically be able to park and get to the meeting, and then want to attend the meeting and not be intimidated to attend the meeting or concerned physically. For instance, that roped off section would need to be closer to the restrooms. And certainly not up in the bleachers. And so, I mean, all of these pieces, the microphone, I mean, all of these things. But then, you know, it's where we started, though. It's a big challenge because then, of course, structurally, I mean, I myself and a lot of people are just uncomfortable raising their hand at town meeting because there's so many people around. It's not their thing, right? Or it's a contentious issue in which you want to participate, but now you're afraid to, especially if it's one of those issues where there are people yelling from the bleachers and you just, you
can be
want,
intimidating at times.
it feels intimidating. You've got
Yes.
all these people all around you, right, for all ages. And so that gets to the whole electronic voting, and can we make it more comfortable for seniors and everybody else at town meeting
But-
to participate?
So, in the interest of time, because I think we're not going to solve this, I think it's a great topic,
we add
though.
that to
I
the
think
list?
do we all agree that it is something that we would like to continue and pursue? So then the question becomes, I think, you know, is the best option, can we work with the group? What is the title of your group, just voter participation?
Oh, it's got a long title.
Oh, all right.
The town committee, which is reviewing the present town structure, town meeting structure and program.
Maybe, can we,
What I put down.
Sounds like that's
somehow
not
work-
meeting anymore.
pardon me?
It sounds like that is kind of a group of the
Well,
past.
I don't know, maybe, well, they're still on the live group, so, what would the board feel comfortable doing as far as maybe, I don't know whether, are you appointed, or can people join your,
Right now, it needs a new chairman, but the people, I know the people who've been on that board for 3 years are sort of getting disenchanted,
oh,
and I suspect that they may not do much more creative work. There's, we did make quite a case for electronic voting, but a lot of people in town didn't want to talk about that. So that sort of, ended a lot of activity
All right,
in
well.
terms of where do we go from here,
maybe we're just going to have to be, focusing on coming up with some suggestions
And
to
maybe a
improve
senior
voting.
citizen kind of
Yeah.
issue.
Right, and voting, for seniors, and just doing it, and having our own little subcommittee.
That's what
Working
that's
on
what
that.
I've been thinking.
The only other thing I could suggest is that 400 people is the capacity of that hall, okay? You can't get more than 400 people
No.
in there, really. And as the town gets bigger and the issues get more dramatic, it needs a whole venue, forcing the seniors to stay home because they can't park, that's an easy fix for them, short term. But they need a broad approach to fix
Okay.
it.
All right. So, what are the wishes of the board? Would you consider having another subcommittee? We can do that. One or two people on a subcommittee, if you're really dedicated to it, and Robert and I have been a two-person subcommittee, we've done a lot of work. I think we've accomplished quite a bit. So it doesn't have to be a lot of people, and I know some people are very involved in the needs assessment right now. And your time needs to be devoted to that. But where are you? I think that's the only way we can perhaps move ahead with it, is to have some people working on it. Unless you have other ideas. Anybody?
Yeah, I know for me, so I think what we all agree there's something to talk about. We're talking about now how to talk about it. How do we?
We can bring
how
it
do we
up
go about
again.
researching it.
We can
Yeah.
bring it up again next month. And think about it between now and then.
Give
Yeah.
us a chance to.
Let me make a suggestion. Why don't we just all go home after this meeting and come back with 3 or 4 items apiece and what we think would be a good idea, and then collectively submit them, and then 1 or 2 people can take the list and put it together.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. Everyone can leave with homework today.
I don't love that idea. And I'll tell you why I don't love that idea. I do not think it is the purpose of this board to serve as a subcommittee. It needs to be done outside of the meeting, and I fully agree with it needs to be done, and then a couple of people need to bring it to whoever in the town needs to hear it, to do it. But I don't want this committee to get back to the point of trying to solve all the problems sitting here around this table.
Oh, no.
We just can't do it.
I agree with you, and that's why I suggested the subcommittee. But if people were willing to come back and then just hand in things, and then somebody could
That's fine.
compile them, that's one thing. That's not really, I don't,
I think you've got a
But-
list right here.
we do have quite a list. Have you been writing them all down?
Most of them, yeah.
So, great. But we do.
Yeah.
And how about if we leave it today, in the interest of moving on and getting to the reports, because we're running short on time now. People, if you would, and you would consider doing that, if you have a thought about it, send me an email, put it down on a piece of paper, but it's sometimes best if you have a couple of thoughts to just send them off in an email. We can collect it, and then we can come at our meeting next month and decide, how we want to, as the needs assessment goes along, there's several of you involved in that. And I know there's not a lot of people to be helping with another subcommittee. Yes, Chris?
Madam Chair, though, I respectfully, I suggest we go further, and why don't we create a subcommittee? I'm happy to volunteer on it.
I'll do it
And-
with you, Chris.
All right.
All right, there we go.
Let's do it. We have to make sure our seniors are not disenfranchised from the ability to speak up. It's important enough to just, let's lean into it. So, thank you.
All right. We will have a new subcommittee. We do not need to vote on that, I don't believe, do we?
No,
No, I don't think so either.
you bring it
So-
the appointment.
So we have a new subcommittee, Chris and Patty. And just so both know that if you're meeting, you do have to have if you're formally meeting and you are a subcommittee, you need to have your meeting posted, it's an open meeting.
You gotta go down and.
Pamela
I mean,
Pamela
if anybody
usually,
had any ideas ahead of time, just email them to us, and maybe we might even connect before the next meeting and come back with something. Who
but you need
knows?
to, yeah, you have to get it posted. Pam can help you with that, if you're willing to do that.
And do they have to sign in? Do you have to go swear in again?
They have to go to Diane and be sworn in as members of a new subcommittee.
You
Have to go to Diane, town
Walk
clerk.
downstairs and ask.
I
her
was
for-
already sworn in.
Yeah, but you have
As
to
a
be sworn in
That was
again.
for something else.
Another one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go see her again.
It takes 2
I'll
seconds.
put up 2 hands.
You'll swear.
the future.
You'll swear.
Well, thank you both. Thank you. That's great. And Bob does have a listing, it'll come out in the minutes, so you'll get some of what we talked about today right from the minutes. So that'll help you.
Does
Okay.
everybody have my email?
It should be on the listing.
Should be on the list,
On
okay.
the list. On the telephone list in the beginning of your book.
Whatever.
Okay. All right, reports, friends.
Nancy, you still there? I'm still here. I had a lot to tell you, but I'm going to make it very short. We have an Elvis presentation this Wednesday. He was the Elvis that was in the Senior Follies. So if you haven't signed up to come, please sign up. We have programs scheduled all the way through June. The Friends will be celebrating, I won't tell you about them because you're running short of time. And the Friends will be celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. So we're planning on something, not a clue as to what, but we are planning on something to celebrate 25 years.
Wonderful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And
Madam-
you do have, I'm sorry, George, but, yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, I'll wait.
I was just going to remind you, you all have the Friends report of their last, or their December meeting in your packet, okay? Yes.
Out of courtesy, I would like to see us, since we got this announcement here, all these reports down here, primary people that's on this board are with the COA, with the exception of the Friends. I would like to see us put the Friends up there because they may have other obligations here. And we put this all the way down to, they've been here roughly almost an hour and a half. I would like for us to let them tell us whatever on this announcement, like what she just did here now. That could have been told to us earlier. We got their report in case they have some other obligation they need to go to. I just think that it would be nice if we did extend that courtesy to them.
Good idea.
Is that, the board okay with that?
So we're going to move Friends update to under announcements?
And it would be more in the form of announcements, like Nancy just did, because we do get the minutes from their meetings, which is in more depth information.
Yep, no problem.
It's a good idea.
Very good, George.
Thank you. So we will move Friends up under announcements and remove them from reports below.
I think that she ought to sit there as long as we have to.
They're welcome to stay, in other words, right?
All right, you're on budget
That's one way to
reports.
putting it. Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Bob, you getting
Okay,
ready?
you have
Okay.
you had sent out to you the three budgets. There's nothing spectacular. They're all exactly the same. You know, just with the month's numbers put in. If anybody has any questions. We obviously have money left in every account, because we're only halfway through the year. And you have the trial budget summary, which tells you of the different funds we have. And don't forget, as far as we're concerned, balances are, the minuses on the balance column are pluses, so that's money that we have. I notice that there's the $852.15 is still in the paper recycling, even though we don't do it anymore. Is there any way to get that into the general funds?
Send it.
I was gonna ask, could we use it over on the Monk's side?
I can ask. It's an accounting decision, but I can ask if it can be spent that way.
I mean, if we're not doing recycling anymore, we might as well get rid of the fund and put it into something we need, even if just moving it over to one of the others. Are there any questions? I can perhaps answer a question. Just on the early discussion, if you look at the Mart budget, you can see the amounts that we're expending on drivers. And of course, we've removed the supervisor's salary as of November, and there's 18,000 left for the 18,000 balance for the rest of the year for the drivers, for the next 6 months. And it was 46, so 18 and 18 is 36. And we've already, we had 45 to start. So we've actually expended more than half the budget in the first half of the year.
So we are going to have problems.
So there will be a deficit if we keep up at that rate.
Could we raise the rates? Would that help? No.
You're talking about the fares?
Yeah.
Every dollar that I receive in fares, Mart subtracts it from the money they give me.
Yeah.
Yuck. Yuck. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are there, is fare the only way? You know, for instance, I always see in your report the cancellations which happen, but also the no-shows, which I know are disruptive to the dispatch operation. If there were, and I'm not saying we should do this, but it's a question, if we were to say, have a fee for a no-show, is that a fare, is that a fee? Would that type of money
That's not
take
a
away?
good idea.
No.
I think
How do you
anything you
collect?
take in
Good
from
idea.
Mart ends up having to
If
go
they're
back to Mart.
sick or, you know, you don't want to charge.
I know, we don't, but we're, you know, we don't want to have the conversation about a shortfall either.
Well, I'm
We
sure
do.
they don't cancel on purpose.
Not the cancellations, the no-shows.
No-shows.
There are some that don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, George?
I think that's a subject that, when it comes to the seniors about that, I think that's not a subject that we ought to talk about because we don't know why there's no shows or whatever the case may be. So I would leave the old dog fast to sleep. I wouldn't mess with it.
Yeah, yeah.
My comment here on the mark on the budget is that reason we had the rate down where it was at, because if we went higher, that meant that much more money that Mark would have taken, that would have been less money for the town to have to give to the program. So that's why we saw it kind of, when it came in and they agreed to it, we just saw it kind of let it be and not mess with it. So I think that the rates for what we're doing, and really, that's going to change in a while anyway with the transportation system that's going to be coming on board anyway. So I don't know if they're going to charge for everything that they do now in the future or not. Whereas if we're not doing it, like the mill site, we're not charging to bring the seniors to the mill site. So I don't know if that's going to be a charge. I mean, those are a few things that need to be worked on when they do put that in.
You know, we should. You know what we should do? This is in the range of education. That part of what we're going to put in the bulletin. We could simply make a note what it costs when there's, you know, if someone makes a reservation and that doesn't use it, which there's a thousand reasons why that has to be the case. I mean, folks, you know,
Yeah.
like everyone's saying, if we just make it aware that what that costs, maybe it will help just raise awareness that it would be great if we could just get the phone call.
Medical
When and if possible.
cancellations, you need 48 hours. They
Not gonna
charge
make a
you.
difference.
No, but we don't. But no, so if that doesn't help, it doesn't help. But
Yeah.
I think that's about as far as we would
Well,
go.
we only had 9 no-shows last month.
Yeah.
Because they've gone to this new system where they call the night
Right.
before. They have an automatic system that calls people and tells them. And you
Reminds
can
them.
push the button and say, I'm not going to be available. So the cancellations are way up, which is great.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's a good
No-shows
system.
is way down.
Yeah, so that's a good example where it was on us to solve it.
Well, and
It's
that's because of the transportation program, you know, that we're in, and the collaborative, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So it is better than it was, for sure.
Totally.
Okay.
Oh, there've been great advantages to going to the centralized dispatch.
Yes. And I think there'll be advantages once they get the rest of the pieces of the program together, too, so. You're on, Director's Monthly Report.
Director's Monthly Report. All right, well, kitchen project, right? Someone was asking about attendance at the breakfasts, and I just put the numbers here so you can see them. Breakfasts are extremely popular. And I also wanted to mention that when there is a canceled breakfast, we had to cancel one time because the building didn't have water, or occasionally we've had to cancel because of weather. Whatever group gets canceled, men's or women's, they're invited to the next one.
Okay.
So it kind of gets turned into a combined one. But I talked with Barbara McCrae, who is the president of the Friends. The breakfasts are a Friends event, and she does not want to change the format. She feels that the men's breakfast and the ladies' breakfast is fine the way it is. So.
And the attendance is so good on both sides.
It was quite amazing, the women's breakfast last week.
Come up, yeah.
The weather was horrendous.
That horrible cold morning.
Yes, and people were there at 8 o'clock. A lot of women showed up, so it was really, yeah.
Again, I direct your attention to the back page. This is where you can see what's been going on with transportation and how it just keeps ramping up. I actually am amazed that we can do 500 rides. It takes some real juggling on the part of both the dispatch and the drivers to pull it off. And again, the overwhelming majority are medical appointments. That's where people are going. In the interest of transportation, I just want to point out to everyone, please take one of these and pass it on. Next week, we're running a Charlie Card sign-up event.
I saw that.
Yeah, so Charlie Card allows seniors to ride at half price on commuter rail, subways, or MBTA buses. That's a significant savings, 50%. But if you go to their website, the way you get a card to do that is you have to go down to Downtown Crossing during business hours, fill out the forms, blah, blah, blah.
And it is a hassle, because John does it, and he said, sometimes it's trying to find even where they,
Well, you
That's
can
right.
renew it on the telephone, I did.
yeah, but you, originally to get it.
Right, that's
Oh,
renewing it. Right,
okay.
there's a
I got
difference
it in
between the
Concord.
original application.
I got it in Concord.
Well, and I talked to Ginger in Concord about her event, and so we are going to be hosting one here, and we've started advertising it. And people can come, bring their ID, we'll take the photos, we'll make arrangements for it to be shipped off with the applications. I have senior tax workers who are going to staff it.
Good.
I think that this will be a real plus for people.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Tina's idea.
Good.
Great idea,
Yay,
Tina.
I've had one for years.
Well, I know a couple of years ago, they do the sign up, but they did it in different locations, and you had to go to those locations. Littleton was not on the list because I called to find out. And that's good. I read the email. That was nice that they was gonna come out to Littleton this time and do
Well,
it.
they're not coming out. We have to do all the work.
Well, you gotta do all the work?
The only thing they gave us was permission. We have to
Okay.
do all the work. We have to do the photos, we have to fill out all the forms, we have to copy everything. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, they're not coming
But
here.
it's a nice service that you're doing,
No, the boss.
Yes, I had a very
You can keep
enthusiastic
renewing
response
it
from
on.
senior tax workers.
and that's great,
Five.
too.
The other thing I should mention is that tonight I go to the Board of Selectmen. Again, transportation is such a key piece. You know, if you want to be healthy, you got to get to the doctors for preventive medicine, or you've got to get to the pharmacy and you've got to get your prescriptions, or you've got to come here and you've got to do exercise. If you don't drive, transportation is the only way you do that stuff. And if you want to eat right, you've got to get to the grocery, and. So, you know, if you want social contact and in touch with people, again, transportation in a town like Littleton, where it's mostly single-family homes and people are living in isolated circumstances, transportation is really key. So one of the biggest issues I've had has always been that everything's great until it isn't. So George tells me that he's got to go in for surgery, so George is pulled off of the schedule. And granted, I have, just enough drivers to fill in, and then I immediately start thinking about the ice and how last year Richard fell and broke his elbow, and how Hal hurt his knee. And I realized that I don't have enough people. I don't have enough warm bodies if things go badly.
Yeah.
So I talked with Keith, and we've actually had this discussion back and forth for several months. But I'm going to the Board of Selectmen tonight to ask them to set me up an on-call pool. The fire department and the police department have an on-call pool. They're people who are trained, who have passed all the qualifications, and they just use them as needed. My difficulty is that, let's say I went to the Board of Selectmen tonight and I said, please let me have a new position. That would be terrific. And then I'd have to advertise it, and then I'd have to wait 2 weeks, and then I would have to do all the interviewing process, and then once we selected someone, I'd have to send them for a physical and a drug test. Then I have to send them to MART. They have to have wheelchair training, they have to have defensive driving training, all on MART's schedule. They're not doing one-to-ones on people right away because I'm in a hurry. So if I even got approval tonight for a new position, it could be 2 months before I got
You won't have
someone
to
in
do
place.
that with the on-call?
With the on-call pool, I could get someone through the training, use them occasionally so that they stay sharp, but have them in the event that someone goes in for surgery. And let's face it, my driver pool is a bit old.
And they would be paid at the going rate.
They'd be paid at the regular rate, they'd be an employee, they, just like a reserve police officer, you know, they go through all the training, they're qualified, but they're only used when needed. And the reason that this works for me, just like police and fire, is the amount of work that we do is really based on 5 days a week, 2 vans, and my budget. It's not like I've got a third van and I could stick another driver in there and send that out. I don't have that. So it's not increasing the number of warm bodies that work for us. If someone works on a Tuesday because George is sick, they're working on Tuesday because George is sick. George is not working that day. I don't have 3 drivers working that day. Yes, George?
Question. Did Keith say that you did not need a vote from this board?
That's right. Because the contract with MART is between the Board of Selectmen and MART. I do have to get MART's approval. I mean, Board of Selectmen's approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
Littleton is one of the few towns we provide tremendous service to the seniors, but I'm wondering, with all you're going through, could we eliminate that if we just made a contract with C&L Limousine Service so that when people need that, they would call here and we would have C&L Limousine take them wherever they need and they would pay them, we'd be out of the picture?
Oh, anyone's free to use C&L right now and pay them. Do you know how much it costs?
Yeah.
Who's paying them?
You just said they'd have to pay themselves.
They would, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's
I know
expensive.
it's a lot, yes.
I don't understand how that's any different than what we have now. You mean that
No,
we would
no, what
stop
we got
providing
now is great, but
transportation?
I meant to go further with the firemen and the police, to go through that, what you're going to ask about.
We're
the
just
new-
looking for drivers. We've got to-
Drivers, right.
In order
Oh.
to solve what we're doing now.
I think
Yes.
is your question, can I get a C&L driver to drive my van?
No,
No, if I may, she was saying that if you have a problem and there are people that need to go somewhere, that they could call C&L and the people could pay C&L to take them wherever they need to go.
They can do
Well,
that.
they can.
But yeah, I understand that, but she doesn't understand how much the cost is, as you brought up, for the people to pay C&L.
You're not talking $2, you're talking $35,
You're talking about big
At
duckies.
least.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
or more.
And I,
85 to go to the airport.
well, I think actually somebody contacted C&L recently and asked them to take them to Mass General, and they said they don't do that. They only go to the airport.
oh my gosh.
Where are they located?
They're right here in.
So, you know?
Right
Right on
up the
110.
road.
They're right on
Right on
110 over
110.
here.
Right up
It's
the
ex-
road.
But
it's
they don't-
They're an airport
It's
transport
extremely
service.
They
expensive.
are, basically.
Extremely expensive.
Well, I think that's a good idea. The selectmen, hopefully they will give you the approval to do that because I think that would be good. And I guess the only other option that we had was what we had in the past, was having people to volunteer and not get paid. So that was a way that they saved a little money in the budget to offset the budget. But what you want to do now is that whoever drives, you want them to be paid. Is that right?
Well, when you
Well,
get
they
into
can't have
something like,
volunteers.
like George, you're gonna have
Can't
to,
have volunteers.
I can't have volunteers driving the bus. They have to be employees.
Yeah, every employee is a volunteer. They're an employee of the town. Every volunteer is, yes, they are. Every volunteer for the town is an employee of the town.
A person who is volunteering for the town, driving their own car to take
I ain't talking
somebody
about them driving
someplace,
their car.
that's
I'm-
covered.
I'm
But
talking about-
MART will not allow a person who is not a town employee to drive their vans.
Yeah, but what
we
I'm
can use
saying,
we can use the senior people as volunteers on occasion, but we can't, you can't cover George with that.
no, what I'm talking about is that in the past, we had volunteers that went to mock training. And they was on the standby list as what you asking for now, but they did not get paid.
You're talking
And
about,
what-
you're talking about Hal.
You know, no, Hal is a senior tax worker and he gets paid for
Yeah,
every
But
hour that he
That was the way we
works.
did it in the old days. He did it as a volunteer.
I wish that I could do that, George. But the last time that I asked for anyone to drive, for anyone to go through the training, I got no one. I got no response.
Oh, I understand. I'm just saying that's the other option that you had if the town doesn't want to give you that.
Well, let's
let's-
go to the town and ask them.
I'd prefer for the
it's
town to let me
3:15.
have an on-call person, and that's what I'm asking for. I don't need the
That's what
town's
she's-
permission to ask volunteers. I've already done that myself.
And that's what she's just letting us know and sharing with us that she's going tonight.
Yeah, as a
Okay.
courtesy to the board.
Tina, so I think we're ready to move on to Tina's, I'm sorry,
It
Chris?
sounds like a great idea.
I think it's a great idea.
It's a good flexibility and capability. If you can pull it off, Pamela, that'd be very good.
Well, I have to thank Keith for backing me all the way, and Bonnie totally backing me and providing information. They were the ones who laid out the justification that if we're doing it for police and fire, it's the same idea.
Great. It is a great idea.
Thank you, Chris.
Tina?
Hi.
Hi.
Well, first, I want to thank everyone for your sincere condolences on the loss of my father-in-law, Ray Mader. I just appreciate the cards and the thoughts and those of you who could come to the visitation. So thanks again. You're just a group of lovely people, and I really appreciate it. So the December report, anybody have any questions on the basic numbers? But basically, there was a lot of troubleshooting with the fuel assistance program, trying to work out some emergency oil deliveries. There was a nice outreach program with the Mary Kay Cosmetic Company where they had provided 54 gift packets. Some went out by Meals on Wheels, some went out individually by me. I dropped them off to those people we identified as being a grandparent perhaps who might not be able to see their grandchildren at the holidays, or being socially isolated and having a need. So that was a program that was great. My numbers may look up on the under 60 population, and this time of year we get many requests of additional gifts for some families in need, and so that was also accomplished, this month to trying to provide for some of the younger families in town with some needs. We're continuing with the groups that I'm running, both Living Alone and the Social Anxiety, and those continued as is. Yes, Louise?
I just, even with my glasses on, I have difficulty in reading this print. I was wondering if you could put it on the front and back and have a larger print.
Okay, tomorrow I still have some Tuesday computer lessons. I'll see if we can get it spread out front and back.
Thank you.
For bigger, okay.
You got it?
She didn't hear you. She didn't hear
You
you.
got it?
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't hear you. I heard you say something, but I didn't hear what you said. Maybe I need a hearing aid, right? Senior Diner. You're on, Barbara.
Well, of course, the numbers have been down because of the weather, but I would like to recognize and thank the Meals on Wheels drivers who go out there and deliver, 15 to 20 meals a day on their route, no matter what the weather is. Nobody has ever refused, unless they're sick or something. They still go out. And this past week or two, it's been really bad, but they did it.
Are they
And-
volunteers? Are they volunteers?
They're volunteers. They're volunteers. They're very dedicated. And we have, including 2 or 3 couples, we have up to 14 volunteers who do this. And they deliver anywhere from 14 to 22 meals a day, Monday through Friday, no matter what the weather is. So I really think they need to be.
That's a piece.
They should be recognized.
Is that a piece?
No, 14 to 22 meals total.
Oh, total.
Okay, I didn't hear you.
It was nice the meal site was open the day after the holidays, others weren't.
Yeah, well, there were only 2 or 3 people that came.
I know, but you were still
But they
there.
were there, yeah. And they
That was nice.
delivered the meals, so.
I know Minuteman requested it, but
And another thing, Littleton is, Gail said Littleton's one of the only towns that has one route. Other towns have split it up, between 2 and 3 routes.
Oh.
So that they,
You need more than one driver then.
But Littleton, they go in Littleton from Mattawanakie to the mobile park, up to this end and that end. They
I
just,
used to
they
get
drive.
lost at Lake Mattawanakie.
Yeah,
I'd ride
they
around
just-
and around.
It's a
Oh,
long
God.
route, but they go out and they have to, if there's a couple, one drives and the other one gets out and delivers a meal. But if
That's
it's one
nice.
driver, they have to get out, no matter what the weather is, deliver the meal. Sometimes there's, it's not plowed or it's messy or whatever, but they do.
And they have to knock on the door.
They
and
knock
get a
on the door and they
response.
greet
Yeah,
the people.
They work
so,
hard.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
It
I
is.
used to do it.
It's a good thing. So that's it, and let's see, bingo was canceled last week because of the weather. That's it. Hopefully the numbers will be up again. So that's it.
Okay. Mary?
5 things. Number 1, the bucket, sand
Bucket
bucket.
brigade.
I've received compliments. The people that received it were very, very happy that we did it. And it all seemed to work out well. And I know other towns are doing it, but we did it and it worked out good. I have only 4 items. I'll be brief. One of them, I think I brought up before, is that when a spouse dies, credit cards do not simply transfer to the other person. Being a user on an original card does not simply transfer it. Unless the card was applied for jointly, the card would stay active then.
What card?
Credit card.
Credit cards.
Yeah.
If a
Macy's-
spouse dies,
Macy's,
it's
American
canceled
Express.
unless it was applied for jointly.
Okay.
Why would
Okay.
anybody expect it to?
The second is the pneumonia shots. There are 2 for seniors 65 and older recommended by the Center for Disease panel. But the catch is that Medicare pays for only 1 for now. We're hoping that that will change next year.
Say that again, Medicare?
Which one are they paying for?
Huh?
The cheaper one shot a year.
For that 65 and over, there are 2
No,
pneumonia shots.
but I got the new one out and paid
There's
for.
2
Medicare
there's
paid
2
for it.
Medicare is only paying for
But they'll
one
only
shot.
pay for 1. But there are 2, and they give different names.
Who wants to pay for it, I guess.
Okay?
Okay,
Go ahead.
The other is that the
wait a
friend,
minute. They pay for the 5 shot if you get it, but we just didn't offer it here. I had to go to the doctor to get it, but they will only pay for 1 shot. It can either be the multi one or the other one.
adults 65 and older now need 2 pneumonia vaccines according to the
Oh, okay, you're talking about
recommendations.
not the flu shot.
Okay? The other, okay.
Okay.
Okay? The Friends of the Neshoba Valley Medical Center have presented $500 checks to Groton COA, Harvard COA, and Pepperell COA to help support their programs. Letters were sent from each of these COA to the Friends of Neshoba outreach program to help support these projects.
Why weren't we given money?
We didn't apply for it. The directors of the COAs applied for
Friends
it.
of Neshoba, is this the Neshoba what?
Friends of the Neshoba
Valley Medical
The
Center.
MC, what does that stand for?
Neshoba Valley Medical Center.
I have to share with you how that went down, Mary.
Just like we are the
I
Friends
have
of
to
the
share
Council
with
on
you how that
Aging.
went down.
This is
Okay.
the Neshoba Medical Center.
Yeah, it's
The Friends.
We want to hear.
Oh, this was a good one. So I received a letter that said something like, "Dear COA Director, the Friends of the Neshoba Valley Medical Center are offering these grants. You have until February 2nd to fill," whatever. The letter was not on letterhead. It did not include the last name of the person who signed it. It did not include a phone number, an address, an email, nothing. I called Neshoba Valley Medical Center and I said, "I'm trying to get in touch with the Friends." They sent me a letter. They had no contact information for the Friends.
Interesting.
And at that point, I'm sorry to say, Mary, I abandoned it.
Yeah,
I just didn't feel like I
This was the big
could.
article.
In what paper?
Yeah, is there a contact
Okay.
information in
They
there?
did.
Is there a
Evidently
phone number,
somebody
maybe a
did get it.
name? I'd love to have a copy of that. Please pass it to me because
It was
Yeah,
in the,
let her have it, please.
I'm sorry to say that I got the feeling that you had to know somebody to get it.
Okay.
Okay.
Like
The
maybe
le-
if you were in Groton or Pepperell or.
Yeah.
Sounds that way, doesn't it?
Shirley got it last year.
It might be worth a
Thank
phone
you.
call.
I meant
It's too
to
late for this
also-
year, but I'll be ready for next year.
I meant to also include on that Sand Bucket Brigade thing, I think the local residents of Littleton got from the highway department one of these yellow that told you what to do during the storms and all,
Yep.
where to go and what to do. The last one is the Academy of Elder Law Attorneys honor our Massachusetts Senator James Eldridge, and he was named Legislator of the Year for his efforts and support to pass legislations that protects seniors.
Okay. What? I want to be protected. Protect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's it.
All right. I will entertain a motion to, you move them being to be adjourned, and Jean is seconding. Thank you.